What's up, peeps? Going to take you into the exciting world of trend lines. If you're new to trading, if you're not sure how trend lines work, they're absolutely essential to everything. Doesn't matter what time frame, what type of trading style you do, whether you're a day trader, swing trader, long-term trader. Understanding trend lines and the time patterns that they go with is incredibly important, because when you're trading, if you're a long or a bull, you want to buy low and then sell high, right? To give you those visuals, think about low or support levels. So when you're buying low, you're buying at support, or think of a floor. So think of floor, support, when you're thinking of the terms buy low. Now, when you think of sell high, you want to think of, a ceiling, right? So think of a ceiling. So buy low at support, sell high at a ceiling level, right? So that's where it's very important to understand these things. So bases, support levels, floors, ceilings, support, resistance. Why do I go into all of that? Because that's how trading all comes together. These candlestick patterns form those single, double, reversal candlesticks, and then they go into the, reversal patterns, and then they go into the bigger patterns overall. So as you'll start to see these patterns everywhere. The more and more that you look at candlestick patterns, and trend lines, they get really overlooked a lot by new traders, because they focus just on the candlestick patterns, but they're not understanding, or they're missing the bigger picture overall of these trend lines, right? So you buy low, sell high in these, smaller candlestick patterns, but then they branch out into the trend, right? So the trend is your friend is a term that you'll hear a lot in the industry. So as I get into it here, this is a very handy dandy tool that is awesome, very helpful to draw trend lines automatically for you. This is TrendSpider. There is so much that TrendSpider does. They have so many different time frames, automatic trend lines. I'm going to kind of show you this right here. I'm not going to go really into depth to TrendSpider. They have all the great handy dandy tutorials to help you, but kind of showing you what it looks like on your chart. I'm going to show you how to draw them yourself, and then with TrendSpider, what's nice is they do them automatically for you. And what's cool about this is that there's especially when trading, there's a bias, right? So many times you'll miss something that's clearly in front of you because you have a bias, right? If you're a long bias, you might miss something that you don't like to see that's short, or like coming into resistance. So our mind can play tricks on us, and that's what's nice about TrendSpider. It takes out the guesswork, so you don't have to guess what something is going to do. Again, just because something is showing on the trend lines doesn't mean it's going to do it. It just gives you a very, very important clues. You'll hear me talking about a lot. When trading, there are very, very important clues to be aware of. So trend lines, again, so important, and they're really easy to miss when drawing them on your own. Now, when you get more experienced as a trader, you can add ones, you can do add lines or things that you see. Like for instance, again, right here up on TrendSpider, you can change all the different chart time frames all up here. I just have a weekly chart pulled up. But you can, so much customization that you can do here, but you can kind of go right over here, grab one of their drawing tools right over here. When you click on it, and you can kind of see here, there's so many different ones, but if you want to kind of zoom in and see, you can kind of connect right up over here, right? You can extend your drawings out. You can kind of do stuff like this right here. Click on the tool and click up right over here. So what am I doing exactly? Well, what I'm doing is I'm connecting as many peaks and valleys as possible. So that's another kind of analogy to think about. When you're thinking of floors and ceilings, think of peaks and valleys, right? So if you're thinking of a valley, that would be a floor or a support level. If you're thinking of peaks, That would be ceiling levels or resistance levels. So it's not a hard, fast rule of how many, but you want to connect at least 2, ideally 3 or more peaks or valleys to get a solid trend line. So peaks or valleys or floor or resistance or floor or ceiling levels or support resistance. I like to give visuals to make things easier, right? So you'll see right down here, 1, 2, 3, 3 support levels, floor levels, valleys, 3 valleys. You'll see back here, 1, 2, 3. And sometimes, again, some people will connect the wicks, some will do bodies. It's just be aware of them. You don't want to go too crazy. You want to get an idea of what price action is doing. Again, everything with trading comes down to price action. It is the foundation to trading. You'll hear me use the words foundation. Again, visuals, right? Foundation of a house. Candlesticks, price action, trend lines, support resistance levels. It's the foundation to absolutely everything when trading. You have to understand this stuff, see the bigger picture, the visuals, and see how these candlesticks come together, because again, those little patterns turn into bigger overall patterns and then form these trend lines. So when you're doing your trading style, you want to, again, zoom into whatever your trading style is, but then also your time frame, chart time frame, and then find these trend lines, right? So again, TrendSpider, can't say enough how awesome they are, but I'll just kind of turn off the charts right over here, just kind of, or the trend lines, the automatic ones for a moment, kind of just show you kind of a clean chart. And I can kind of zoom in right over here. I'll go to a daily chart time frame. And again, you can adjust. You can see I can put the lines here, go up and adjust, all that good stuff. But you'll see I can kind of zoom in and, do things like, let me grab that tool again, right? Connect a peak and a peak, right? So here's a couple peaks right here. And then we can also extend that out to the future. So what you can do up here is you can kind of just remove this, go up over here and just go connect here and just extend it out, right out to the future. So you'll see kind of like prices at, hit some resistance here because you go back over here. There's angular. So now another terms I want to talk about are angular support and resistance levels. So there's angular support, angular resistance, right? So you can see down here, here's a base right over in here. This would be angular support, right? So I can draw my line out to the future right over here. So angular support, and then you have right now angular resistance, right? There's horizontal support and resistance lines, right? So we can just do like this. Horizontal would just be like those lines that go horizontal, right? So let me just kind of do a few of these right up over here. And so how am I doing this exactly? Again, connect peaks and valleys, right? As many peaks and valleys as possible, floor and ceiling levels. So you want to always, when you're looking at price action and seeing what's happening real time, always look left, see what happened in the past, because what happened in the past affects the future, right? So you find as many of those peaks and valley levels on, whatever your chart time frame that you're looking at. Again, you don't want to drive yourself totally crazy. You can draw and put so many darn lines on a chart, but just get an idea of the previous levels of support and resistance of those peaks and valleys. So you look left, so I can kind of look over here, and then I can draw my tools and, let my drawings go out to the future and see what happens, right? So again, you kind of see these levels right here. When I'm kind of going out to the future, look what's happening on daily price action. What happened in the past affects the future, right? So just kind of connect those floor and ceiling levels or peak and valley levels. Again, I don't want to go too crazy on this video, but I'll just kind of give you an example here. Just kind of as you see, I'm looking at these levels here, and then you'll see many a times when price kind of goes up, you'll see price goes up and down between these levels, right? So you'll see, again, here's angular resistance coming down. Here's a peak. Here's a peak. Here's 1, 2, 3 valleys, 2 peaks. But then there's peaks and valleys in horizontal levels as well, right? So you'll see kind of price up here. Price couldn't hold up here, fell back down. And then you have like a double top, right? And then if you have, again, these bigger overall patterns, here was a peak. Here was a peak. This one couldn't hold. It fell. You'll see all around over here, what is this pattern? That's a right shoulder, a head, a left shoulder, right? So a head, think of head and shoulders looking at a body, somebody's head, left shoulder, and then their right shoulder would be lower than their left shoulder or co-equal. Sometimes you get a little bit of a fake out and it might be a little bit higher, but again, head and shoulders, think of a head, left shoulder, right shoulder. So this is where you'll see all these little individual bullish and bearish candlesticks come over into the bigger overall patterns, form things like flags, pennants, triangles, head and shoulders, cups and handles. And then you'll see the bigger patterns overall, you'll see the bigger overall trend line. So you'll see a head and shoulders pattern, and then you'll see kind of a bigger kind of overall, kind of a wedge-ish pattern, but you'll see in here kind of a cup and a handle. But this is where, again, you can go into with these trend lines. You'll see kind of it falling over here, but you can get an idea, again, let me just kind of draw this line right here. See all of these little support levels or valley levels or angular support levels. See all these little touches down over in here. I see how I'm kind of zooming in right here, and I'm doing and drawing my own kind of trend lines. So you'll see right over in here, really tight trading price action here. I'm connecting peaks and valleys, trend lines, and what is this pattern overall? That is a rising wedge pattern. So you'll see there's a rising wedge inside of this bigger overall, I don't know what you want to call that, kind of a wedge-ish kind of pattern. But you'll see right here, you see how you connect these peaks and these valleys and how this happens? So when price starts to fail out of that rising wedge right here, it's no surprise because it's kind of getting at this peak level. And typically with rising wedges, they fall back down. But how far back down? Well, that's where you look left on whatever chart time frame you're looking at. And then you look at the bigger picture overall, you'll see the daily support and resistance levels. And then you can kind of go out to the weekly levels. You can extend your drawings to other charts and stuff right here. But you can kind of just, again, zooming out, right? So if I kind of go right over here, so you can extend your drawings out on the chart. I don't have it set up that way right now. But you'll see right here, kind of a bigger overall pattern. So if you are having trouble seeing something, you can kind of zoom out to, oops, I went to reduce the chart, not what I wanted to do. All right. So if things get a little bit cloudy in what's happening, zoom out on the charts and get a bigger time frame, right? So now you can see right over in here, I get the bigger overall channel, right? So you'll see, oops, I got to be careful with my cursor there, right? So still kind of a rising wedge pattern right here. So you have this kind of bigger, these two peaks right over here. You have a couple valleys over here. And then you can see as I'm going up over here and connecting these peaks again, right down over, you know, I can kind of put it over here. Oops. Right there, right? So it kind of has some resistance. So you'll see, you know, when you're trading, right? So you'll see right back over in here, coming down over here. That was kind of a flag pattern. Price kind of touched down right over here, and then it went and broke out of the flag, right? So this is kind of a bull flag. So again, these little flags, so flags are kind of smaller trend lines inside of bigger ones. So you can see with a flag formation, kind of right down over in here, or a pennant, flag or pennant, falling wedge, flag. You see the lines? I'm just connecting the peaks, connecting the valleys inside of the bigger overall patterns, price hitting at support, right? So a lot of people are trading these, some traders will go and they'll kind of zoom in and they'll buy down here after it bounces off of support, right? So buying low off these support levels, or they'll wait for the patterns to form after they held support, trade a breakout, let's say of a flag here, and then they would look, at selling near these resistance or ceiling levels, right? So again, you can buy at these little peak levels or these support levels here. People that go in short, they sell at the resistance level. So if price doesn't break these levels, they'll take a short position and short it on the way down, right? So that's one way, short at the peaks. Or then you can find these other little patterns like head and shoulders, wait for the pattern to form, short it on the way down. But it's all, again, these support levels right over here, buying low, selling high. So this stuff is very important to see and learn in the bigger overall picture. And that's where it's, again, frustrating, right? A lot of the talking heads on TV and social media, you don't hear them talking about this stuff, right? You'll hear them saying, buy this stock, ABC company, whatever it is. Oh, it's a buy. It's the greatest thing since sliced bread. It's got the greatest fundamentals. But where do you buy it, right? Do they just guess? Do they guess on where to buy and sell and just get lucky? Do all the big names, Warren Buffett, all those guys and girls, do they just randomly buy stocks? Or do they know the certain areas on where to buy and sell, right? Price action, again, it's not foolproof. Patterns fail, but it's your best overall guide when trading, right? It's the visuals, right? And this is where it's so important to understand is you can't hide buying and selling from the charts. So anytime somebody buys and sells a stock in the world, doesn't matter whether it's, I don't want to insult anybody, somebody who doesn't have a lot of money, or Warren Buffett. All of that buying and selling forms a bullish or a bearish candlestick on a certain time frame, whatever that is, and then it goes out to the bigger time frames, which forms the bigger overall patterns. And that's why these patterns form very, very important clues as to what a stock or the market is going to do overall. So when you can gauge and learn these patterns, you might not get the exact timing right, but you'll get very close to it. You have an understanding overall at what a stock or the market is going to do. I'll give you a quick kind of example to show you how this kind of comes together right here, right? With the market. So when people ask, hey, is there any way to predict? You can't predict what the market is going to do, right? Financial advisors will say, oh, you got to plan for the future. You can't predict this stuff. You can never understand what the market or blah, blah, blah is going to do, or all those, technical analysis or those charts or patterns. That's all hocus pocus stuff, and that stuff doesn't work. Well, that's where it gets that's not true. It's not true. So this is where, again, when you learn from us and you learn in our ebook, download our ebook, take our candlesticks courses, our courses in general, learn this stuff, take our wallpapers and ebook, learn these patterns, and then, not to cause any controversy, but this is your life savings. If you want to understand this stuff with trading, but overall in your 401k and investing, ask your financial advisor if they know these patterns. If they don't, maybe find a new one. Right? Because this stuff is all important. This is all price action. And what I'm saying that to you and setting this precedent for you, because when you start to learn these things and these patterns, right, you're not going to necessarily guess as to what something or what the market is doing, right? You'll hear all the talking heads. Remember, it's not just the buying and selling. All of the buying and selling falls underneath data, right? Economic news, wars, other things that happen in this world, right? I'm making this video in 2022. The past 2 years, a lot of things have happened. You might not understand what exactly is about to happen, but the charts can give you very important clues as to something that may be happening or may be coming, short term and long term, right? And what do I mean by that? So let me show you some examples. This is where it gets very exciting, and where the whole game, where the whole foundation, where the beneath the foundation of the stock market, the stuff that's not talked about, you get a lot of the news, a lot of the stuff out in the world, a lot of the panic, a lot of the get everybody going, right? But to kind of separate those emotions, right? You got to control those emotions, separate those emotions, and look at the charts. What's actually happening? Learn these patterns, learn the trend lines, see what's actually happening, right? So you can see right here, here's the SPY, which just tracks the overall market. You can kind of zoom in on these things, and if I just draw my trend lines, you can kind of do, again, TrendSpider, you can adjust and do your whole thing and what kind of moving average lines and all that kind of stuff and see what's happening, do the different time frames. Or you can kind of drawing manually when you kind of learn this stuff on your own and kind of just look out and then look in. So I can kind of just do this right over here, just kind of get an overall kind of a gauge. Whoops, sometimes I get a little bit tricky or a little bit quick on the trigger finger here. Right over here, right? Connect as many peaks and valleys as possible. Oops. Come on. This is where I get a little frustrated at myself. I'll just kind of go out to this level here. Right? There we go. Kind of extend it out to the future. Right here. And then right down over here. Here is a bigger overall. I just move my chart. All right. So connect here. What in the world? There we go. All right. So that's kind of like a bigger overall channel. What is going on with my cursor? If you know me by now, I always have the worst technical issues, right? Kind of a bigger overall rising wedge pattern, right? So that's kind of a bigger overall. This is a weekly chart. But then you can start to zoom in so you can see it's hitting resistance. It's hitting those ceiling levels. So when you hear, oh my gosh, this is happening, or oh my gosh, that is happening, look at the charts. And a lot of times it's not a wonder why things are happening. Right? You'll see many a times, hey, something's great to move it up. And then, oh my goodness, something is bad, or somebody did this, or some president did that. And it happens at like a resistance level. And then when things seem so bleak, it's, oh my goodness, something good happens. So whatever all the people behind the scenes, doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on, right or left, whichever one you like, whatever they know what's going on, remember, those people and all the big people in the world, they have the money to buy and sell stuff. They might have information that we don't know, but what they cannot do is hide the charts. They may hide the information, but they can't hide price action or candlesticks or the buying and selling. So you'll see like kind of a bigger overall pattern. But then you can draw in or zoom in on, you know, when something's happening back in these areas right here, right? So you can see right over in here. So, you know, there's the bigger overall patterns of when something's happening. But when you start to drill in and see what's going on to these levels, like right in here, you can see the same similar patterns, right? So when something's going on like this, you see these rising wedges and channels, kind of something happening over here. It's hitting a resistance level. It pulls back down, right? So, and then this is a weekly chart, but you can zone in or move into a daily chart, which I'll show you again, but just give you an example, kind of seeing these other patterns. Remember going back to head and shoulders, you can just kind of go right over here. All right. Why is this not working? Oh, that's where it is. There we go. So you'll have a head, and then we'll have a left shoulder right here, and then you'll have Right here would have been a shoulder. Right here, head, left shoulder, right shoulder, and then it failed back down. This could have been a shoulder. Now it pops back up again, right? Head, shoulder. So now when you're like, the SPY, why is this happening? Well, this peak is not going up and breaking this left shoulder or a head. So you have a head and shoulders pattern. But then you can go down and go to these trend lines and connect the peaks and valleys again. Oops. Right over in here. And connect on right here, going down here, and then going up right down here. So you might have a possible flag inside of an overall rising channel. So you see how all these trend lines, right? Peak connecting a peak, connecting a peak, connecting as many valleys, going out to the bigger patterns, zooming in. So this is how all of those, single and double bullish and bearish candlesticks turn into the 2 and 3 candlestick patterns, which turn into things like flags, pennants, rising wedges, falling wedges. Zoom in, look at the shorter term time frames, zoom out to the bigger overall time frames, get those trend lines, those support and resistance levels. Then you find the areas of where to potentially buy low, sell high. So zooming out to see what's happening on the bigger time frame, and then you can go into daily charts or shorter term time frames and seeing what's happening on the shorter term, right? So sometimes it gets really messy, but at the same time, you can still see things like right here. Ahead, you can see, again, left shoulder area. And right here, this was not surprising over here because you can see head, left shoulder, this right shoulder, look, couldn't break that left shoulder, so you had a head and shoulder failure. And so what happened over here wasn't a surprise because there was the clues right over in here, because when I draw that horizontal line, you see how this right shoulder couldn't break this left shoulder, right? So price went up, came back down, and it failed this left shoulder, hit some support down over in here, like this, right? Bounced back up. So left shoulder went up, head came back down. Now you have this neckline area down in these areas here. Bounced back up, failed this left shoulder area. So right shoulder came back down, and what did it do? It failed the neckline area down here. And then you can kind of keep extending this stuff. So you see, price goes up and down, up and down, up and down. Horizontal and vertical support and resistance levels, trend lines make up everything. Price action, remember, price action is the foundation to absolutely everything when trading. And what's happening in this world, and you hear talking heads saying stuff, understand whatever they're telling you or not telling you, because of course there's a lot of things they don't tell you. They cannot hide it from the charts. Learn the charts, learn price action, which is the foundation to absolutely everything when trading. Again, we love to help you. We're an educational trading community, the Bullish Bears. We have lots of resources. We have our ebook, wallpapers, backgrounds, lots of courses to help you. And we live stream and teach this stuff every single day.